I'm with my good friend Jen. Jen, you want to give yourself a quick intro? You got a lot of things going on in your title here. Break it down.
Yes, I think when my title in Workday is very different than like my boss is like, whatever you want to call yourself, do it. But I'm the global head of digital marketing and partnerships or innovation or strategy, depending on the day. But I'm responsible for really what I call 5 pillars of the organization to drive really digital first thinking through a local first, but not local only organization. So I'm responsible for all of our digital media investments, owned and earned. So our website infrastructure, our strategy around organic, consumer data. I have Michael Lampert here, who is the head of consumer data on my team. Retail media, which is always a fun one. Still trying to define what that is. Is that commerce? Is that retail media? We're still working on that one. And the last one is digital innovation. So the front and center of that is generative AI. It's pretty much what I spend 180% of my day on right now, and really trying to define the ambition for how Mondelēz is going to embrace generative AI in a responsible way and really engage consumers with more exciting content. So a little busy.
Amazing.
All good.
A lot of things. And then I don't know how many of you heard, I'm Phil Bohn, SVP of Sales and Revenue for Mediavine. We exclusively represent about 10,000 food, parenting, and travel sites, half of which are female-owned, top 20 Comscore property, all that fun stuff. Jen, give me the quick rundown on Mondelēz, like all the products, favorite ones in each country. I kid.
Favorite one in each country. Okay. Many people don't know what Mondelēz is. My parents still like, what? And I'm like, oh, we make Oreo cookies. So everyone loves Oreo cookies. This is a U.S.-based audience, so Oreo cookies, Sour Patch Kids, Ritz crackers, Halls. If you have a little cough, we have that. Cadbury outside of every country but the United States. So it is 200 years old this year in the UK.
How are we celebrating that, by the way? Like, what are we going to do for 200 years of Cadbury?
They have a lot planned.
I can imagine.
It is,
okay.
It is decreed by the king. It's crazy. Their plans this year around really engaging consumers and reminding them of the history of the product and why it's been with them for all the ups and downs of like really the empire. The empire, yeah. Pretty much.
Amazing.
What else do we have? We have Lacta in Bis in Brazil. We have Lou biscuits, which are my favorite from France. We were there in January, and I think I took an entire suitcase home with me. They are my favorite. You cannot buy them here, which just makes me sad. But yeah, we have products all over. Oreo is our global brand. It's pretty much in every market that we have. But we have, I would say 50% are global brands and 50% are local jewels or localized brands that if you went in, you would have, I'm still learning all of them.
Got it. And I know you went into it a little bit at the beginning here, but tell us a little bit more about like specifically what you and your team are doing and how the team is broken down a little bit.
Yeah. So again, we're a local first, but not local only company. So what does that mean? It says most of our talent sits in the individual markets, and they own the strategy for driving volume and market share. But at the center, and specifically my team that sits in a larger team of consumer experience, it's think of it, the new media, or paid, owned, and earned, is how are we building the right ambition, principles, and strategies so that we can give really a roadmap to our teams in the local markets to accelerate in the digital space. So we started on like really digital media. How are we going to turn from a very traditional based CPG company into a digital first organization? And the first pillar was, how do we organize, find the right partners from a digital media perspective and really tackle that objective around really it's laws of growth. It's laws of growth. It's how do we ensure that we're driving the most efficiency, effectiveness out of $1 billion of worth of spend? But as that has really been codified and solidified, and we are, I think we were named #1 media effectiveness by Work this year. So we are proud of that work that we have done over the last 5 years. Is now, how do we think about zero and first party data? What's the infrastructure we have to put in place? How do we build frameworks and playbooks that then we can go and surgically into markets and help them build their unique strategy, because every market is different. Every consumer base in these markets are different. Our position in the market is different. In the US, we are category leaders. That's not the case in all markets. So we also have to be able to be agile enough to change the direction based on local needs. A lot around websites. We are not the best at websites. I think Mondelēz would be the first to admit that, most of us. But that is the front door of consumer data. So how do we really build that right ecosystem? We're not a D2C advertiser. We still, 80% of our sales are still in brick and mortar. What's the engagement? What's the value exchanges that we're developing for consumers? And then how all is this enabled by AI? It's really, it's not just talk in conferences and on stage. It really is going to revolutionize marketing, both from an operations perspective, but how are we able to create more content, more relevant content to consumers today?
So when I think Oreos, I definitely think AI. As I'm dunking, I'm like AI. Talk to me about how you're incorporating AI and what you're using, and give me some of the details here, because this was fascinating to me and I thought it was so cool.
Yeah. So from AI, I would say we have we have right now, I think 50 plus campaigns in market using generative AI. None of you will see them. They are not in the United States. Why? We're still figuring that out. We'll get there. We'll get there in the
Not
US.
even one in the US.
We will get there in the US. But we have campaigns where we have a product called Celebrations. It's a Cadbury product. It's a gifting product. And you're able, if you give that as a gift, you can have been able to go on previously with a QR code and create a birthday song for the consumer. So when they click on their QR code on the box, it's a personalized birthday song. So through prompting, a consumer can write who this individual is. They can choose the genre of music, the style of music, and the person that receives the gift not only gets the product, but they get a personalized birthday song. We had over 500 million people participate and do a song. We grew share off of that execution. And now we're taking that concept and we have basically replicated it in the Netherlands. We are replicating it in Germany on a different brand. So we're able to take these concepts that we are deploying in markets, learn from them very rapidly, and then deploy them in other markets and other brands.
And what market did it start in?
That was India.
India.
Yeah.
And is Happy Birthday songs like universal, or are there different ones in India than
Happy
Germany?
Birthday song is universal.
Fantastic. Yes. That simplifies it a bit.
But you could choose local language for that too. You could do English or local language. So it was text to audio, and then the visualization of the video would be able to apply the lip movement of a celebrity to that audio. So
you got to pick like a Netherlands, Danish celebrity to sing a Happy Birthday song.
His name is Snell in the Netherlands, and he's the #1 rapper in the Netherlands. I didn't even understand anything he was saying, but yeah, no, we worked with him, and he said enough words, and you're able to mimic the audio in his mouth movement.
And this is all handled by your team and your partners, or?
A lot of that is handled. So the concepts of the frameworks are how we use AI responsibly. The approval process comes through my team, but we're working directly with our creative agencies in the concepts. So they're coming up with how are we really going to engage and bring excitement of our brands to our consumers. We're in a very big impulse category. We have to stay top of mind. And they just identify how can generative AI make that creative idea even stronger.
Got it. So
those were all WPP. We're in WPP's house, so I have to give him a little shout out. So that was Ogilvy in India, Ogilvy in the Netherlands, and Ogilvy in Germany.
how do they cross work together? I guess how, like, do you have to bring it to each team or?
No, we are despite the fact that we are all over the world, we are a very collaborative organization, both from a consumer experience team. There's probably at this point about 120 of us on the extended team. And then our global agencies, function in the same way. They're constantly sharing the concepts and the creative across the brand market combinations that they support us on.
So tack onto that with the agency, right? So you're obviously bringing folks in house and very regionalized, and people like your team is all over the world. How do you incorporate the agency, and where does that start, and what role do you see them playing?
We can't do our job without the agency. I spent half my career on the agency. So, I mean, I think everyone on my team, everyone on my team worked at an agency at some point in their career. Most of the consumer experience team has worked at an agency at some point in their career. So we have empathy for what they go through every day. But they're an extension of us. We could not be successful without them. And it's really critical for us to build really strong relationships, but trust. Because I can't be everywhere. My team, I have 5 people on my team. We can't be everywhere. We're a global team. And we really require not only the internal CX team, which has different reporting lines, but the agencies to keep that narrative consistent when they're going into their local markets, keeping it consistent within their local teams as well, to be like, this is Mondelēz's ambition. This is the framework that we're living within. Like, make sure that we can, when we're having conversations with a local marketer, from a creative perspective or a media perspective, that we're using the same language that the global team is using, that we're following those principles so that we can really cascade and accelerate as quickly as possible.
Got it. And what do you look for them to bring to the table?
Let's see. Humor. I always start with humor. We honestly
Are you just unfunny, or why?
No, you have to have fun in your job. Got it. Chemistry is so important with your agencies. I can't, smart people are in every agency. Strategic people are in every agency. Innovative people are in every agency. But you got to find that agency that has the right chemistry for your company, because that's the special sauce that makes it all work. We have 6, 7, 8, 5 or 6 agencies. Get them all in the room, or they all get in the room with us. We hash it all out. We tell, everyone knows what their job is, and their success is making the other agency on the other side of the table as successful. There's no secrets. We're sharing together. We're a highly collaborative environment, and that chemistry, even between our agencies, is so important.
It sounds like a very healthy agency brand relationship.
I mean, we should ask them. Maybe that's my point of view, but I hope they think the same.
No ex-boyfriend genes here.
No, none.
Can you talk a little bit more about the AI piece and what products you specifically use, what you're looking into, those kinds of things?
We really think about AI in 3. We're building capabilities and competency in 3 ways. One is through agency-led campaigns. So how are creative agencies really identifying how AI can make these campaigns stronger? The second is, how are we working with Google and Meta and TikTok to really leverage their AI products, whether it's from an ad placement perspective. A lot of them are now in a beta testing of creative expectations or processes. So we're always looking to engage both our creative agencies and our partners to really pilot and test and push on what is the possible. Then there's, how are we as Mondelēz taking our own future in our hands? So we're really working strategically to understand, what do we need to take in-house from an AI perspective or an ecosystem perspective. What's the tools that have to be put in place? What is our ambition around really going from a campaign to full funnel activation using AI? And then how does that AI create capacity for our marketers to do other things? So it's really both on an operation and an engagement perspective.
Nice. Any learnings you can share? And I don't know, everybody's in the AI world now. We have to be, but as you're branching this and ramping it up, like anything you can share, like this does not work here, or this took Oreos, to a very negative place and nobody was happy about it. Like, I don't know.
I think in this process, you have to be comfortable with the known unknowns. You can have a plan in place and then you learn that plan is just not possible. Responsible AI front and center. You have to understand how you want to use AI as a company. And be very clear on those requirements, both internally and with your partners. Approval processes. It's a lot of changes in ways of working that really need to be crafted. But ultimately, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, I'm a media person. I've done media strategy most of my life, and now I'm doing generative AI. Didn't even know that existed 2.5 years ago. And you have to be uncomfortable that you don't know everything. And your management has to be comfortable that you don't know everything. And that's not always easy. And it's not fast. In order to do it right, you need time to build the right strategy, the ecosystem, and the right principles to deploy.
And where do you see your team taking this in the future? Like how, or do you plan to expand?
So, I mean, digital innovation, last year, about 2 years ago, I was talking about NFTs. Anyone doing NFTs? I think innovation is constantly moving. So once we are able to solidify and craft really the principles about these pillars, our goal is to really influence and drive that acceleration into the market, so that will free up my team to figure out what is next. Where does the organization need to go from a digital marketing perspective and innovation next? So where is that? I don't know. We will have to figure that out over the next 2 years. But I think Gen AI will be front and center for at least 2 to 3 years at this point. It will transform organizations. There's other people in my company working on AI from the sales perspective. At some point, those will collapse into each other. We're coming from a marketing advertising perspective. We have other people in the organization focused on sales and bottoms up, and how from an operations internally. Those will all collapse into one ecosystem in the future. And then that's going to unlock opportunities that we can't even think of right now.
Got it. And what are you thinking about what you need for the next 2 years from a hiring standpoint, from a team, from partners? Like what role does that play?
Capability and what we call competency is critical. So as we build all these core pillars under my team, we have to ensure that we're building the marketers of the future as well, and ensuring that they not only have a broad understanding of the concepts, but they know how to use it strategically in their plans. And it's sometimes day-to-day work gets in the way of training and thinking and education. So a lot of what we do is try to put in, not only education series and training series and everything, but how do we go into markets and do hands-on experimentation to really build? In a lot of these cases, you have to do it to learn it. You can read a paper, you can sit in a training, and it sounds fun and exciting, but to understand the work that is required to do that, to get the mind shift change that's needed, it takes a lot of work. So we are always we're trying to recruit more digital first marketers that have been in this space, that are maybe not CPG, they're in telecom, they're in banking, they're in different categories that digital is centerpiece to the fundamental operations of their organization, to bring new and different thinking into really a traditional based organization.
That's interesting. Do you consider yourself a CPG, or the larger brand might be, but your team isn't? How do you think about that?
I mean, the the larger organization is CPG. We're a manufacturer of food. But my team is like, I would say, is the emerging tech space. Like we're incubators, we're accelerators for the future. So we are constantly pushing the envelope and making people uncomfortable. There's many smart people in my company that manage the day-to-day organizational business of making sure we have supply chain and the logistics and that the cookies taste good. That's someone else's job, but I get to tell them how emerging tech is going to make that easier.
Outstanding. I'm sure I'm not the only salesperson in the room, so let's talk about the digital marketing piece of your title here. Talk about your media mix and what part of that you handle and what you do there.
Yeah, so at this point, I think we're about 65% of our working media is in digital. In the US, I think it's closer to 75%. Europe is still traditional based.
But they have the happy birthday song.
They have a happy birthday song. It's a juxtaposition of markets. It's sometimes it is what it is. I think what we have seen is I joined Mondelēz in 2017 in North America, and I walked in. We had 150 digital partners, and we had a 50-cent ROI, and I was like, we got to fix this. And we currently have 7 digital partners, and our digital ROI globally is close to $3. We've massively improved by really focusing our attention on platforms that we know are going to drive reach and impact, and then doubling down on those partnerships. So Google and Meta and TikTok, I name them because they're also helping us on our AI journey. They're helping us on our consumer data journey. We're able to bring, because of our leverage of our investment, we're able to really unlock other value from those organizations that really help drive the other pillars under my team. But that principle of small or few but mighty has been extremely successful. We started that in the US when I joined, and then we cascaded that strategic approach globally, and it's been revolutionary on how we really drive ROI impact, and obviously it's revenue and share.
That's what I was going to ask, is what are the key metrics that you look for then from those partners? Like, what's success?
I mean, volume growth. Everything we do every day, yes, I'm in marketing, everything I do, and I'm in the fun side of marketing, comms marketing. We have to drive share and volume. I'm a business leader. Business is not good, and it's how do we make every dollar that we put into the market stronger, whether it's working media, whether it's non-working media, whether it's technology to drive more cookies and cracker sales.
Got it. And we touched on this a little bit, but as global and as like so many different campaigns, like talk to us about like why you're selecting this, how it works, like what kind of brought all of that together, why everything is so different throughout the world.
Well, I think one of the power of Mondelēz is that there's so much empowerment in local ownership. They still run the businesses, and it allows them to be creative for their consumer in their market. So we are we're able to, and we remove barriers, we create all the enablers to make their jobs easier. But everything is still through the lens of the market and the lens of that consumer. So while Oreo is Stay Playful, and you've all seen those commercials here, how that translates in Brazil or Colombia or India or China is very different. So while they're crystallized those foundations, the markets have the ability to really customize it for their needs and where that brand is positioned in that marketplace as well. Gotcha.
And then I guess we can probably have time to take a couple of questions here. Can you talk about why the U.S. is so different from the rest of the world?
Because it could be its own company. It's a beast. I mean, Oreo is like almost a $3 billion brand in the U.S. It's the sheer size of the U.S. versus some of the other markets. They're all, I mean, you could say that for India and China and Brazil. They're all unique in their own way. I think there's a lot more pressure on the U.S. business. It's a mature market. We have what we call mature and the emerging markets. And right now our portfolio is about 60-40 mature versus emerging. So, or developed versus emerging. So there's a lot more pressure on I would say the developed markets to keep consistent on share. And really volatile. I mean, the last 4 years have just been like up and down. Like, do we have supply? Do we not have supply? Is categories growing? Are they shrinking? Pricing elasticity. It keeps like there's a new business challenge every 6 months that every market has to deal with. And the U.S. it's given the size, just takes a lot more to manage overall.
Got it. So Oreos are universal.
Oreos are universal. They do taste different in Asia than they do on this side of the world.
Is that the green tea ones that I've had?
Green tea. There was I think when I first started, they had hot chicken. I was like, what are we doing? I'm like, that had to be an in and out. That was probably, but yeah.
Amazing. Any questions for Jen and about Mondelēz?
Hi, Jen. Dan Wheeler here, formerly with Dunkin' Brands. So we've got a fantastic relationship with Mondelēz over the years. One of the things I've always admired about Oreo in particular is how nimble and playful the brand is, not just with campaigns, but with organic social.
Yeah.
And how you just show up for those cultural moments and those news cycle moments opportunistically. My question is, how do you set up your team to make sure that you can do that effectively? And is AI helping you in that regard at all?
Yeah, so I know there was a section on fandom, and I was like, oh, I should have brought that was my Kelly that used to work for me in the U.S. So we started the organic practice in the U.S. because Oreo didn't want to follow culture; it wanted to lead culture. And we had a lot of brand love already. We have strong foundations about stay playful. And we were already part of the conversation in the US. So we really wanted to leverage that. So in order to do it, I would say properly, you had to turn over the tone of voice to the community manager. And in order to move with speed, you had to change your process on approvals for creative. So we brought in an agency who, before the pandemic, sat with the brand team. They came in, they sat with the teams, and they were an extension of that team. So they were involved in every meeting. They heard everything that was happening, and they were just an extension. So they have free, within certain frameworks in processes, they're tweeting, they're posting on behalf of Mondelēz with limited need to go through legal approval. They are the tone of voice, and we've seen it so successful that we have it across all the brands in the US. We have the same practice now in Brazil and in Canada and in the UK, and we can see volume impact and share impact off of that work. But yeah, I know we partner with you. Every time we do a food service relationship, we like to talk to those other brands. We're not shy to talk to Slim Jim, and Oreo talks to Sour Patch Kids. We interact with our own brands on the platforms, but we have a lot of great opportunity with our retailers in our food service or other partnerships that we have that we embed into the overall narrative and campaign.
Any more questions? We could probably take one more if we have them. If not, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Phil. Fantastic session.